6 months had passed since the attack. The galaxy was quiet where human space used to be. The collective had moved on to other business, confident that the human problem was solved forever. They were busy managing trade routes and settling disputes between member species. Nobody thought about the dead worlds that had once been full of humans, but Sarah Chen was very much alive. Luna Base had become her world. The hidden research station on the far side of the moon was designed to support 50 people for 5 years without any outside help. When the attacks happened, there were 47 people inside. Now there were 31. Some had died from injuries during the bombardment. Others had simply given up hope and stopped eating. Sarah refused to give up. She spent every day in the laboratory, studying the alien technology that had fallen to the lunar surface during the attack. Pieces of destroyed alien ships had crashed all around the base. Each fragment told her something new about their enemies. "Look at this," she said to Dr. Martinez, who had become her closest partner in the research. "This isn't just advanced technology. It's specifically designed to counter human weapons." She pointed to a piece of alien armor plating. "See these patterns? They're made to absorb the exact frequency of our laser weapons. And this bioscanner here, it's programmed to recognize human DNA signatures." Martinez frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying they studied us for a long time before they attacked. They knew everything about our weapons, our biology, our psychology. That's why the attack was so successful." Sarah had been working day and night for months trying to understand how the aliens had defeated humanity so completely. What she found made her angry beyond words. The aliens hadn't just attacked randomly. They had planned everything carefully, studying human weaknesses like scientists studying insects. But in their research, they had made a mistake. They had left behind data about themselves. "Martinez, come see this," Sarah called out. She was standing in front of a computer screen showing alien text. "I've been decoding their data files. Look what I found." The screen showed detailed biological information about the Krillian species, their genetic structure, their immune systems, their environmental needs, everything a scientist would need to understand how they lived. "They studied us," Sarah said quietly. "So now we study them." Far away, in the outer rim of what used to be human space, Marcus Torres was having similar thoughts. His patrol ship, the Defiant, had become home to 18 other survivors. They had found each other by using secret military communication channels that the aliens had missed. Marcus had changed in the months since the attack. The easygoing officer was gone, replaced by someone harder and colder. He spent his days planning and his nights remembering the faces of everyone he had lost. "Sir, we're receiving another signal," reported Lieutenant Park, his communications officer. She was young, barely out of the academy when the war started. Now she handled equipment with the skill of a veteran. "Where from?" "Deep Space Relay Station 77 Alpha. They say they have 30 survivors and some interesting salvage." Marcus nodded. Over the past months, they had been finding small groups of humans scattered across the galaxy. A mining crew here, a research team there, a few families who had been traveling between systems when the attack happened. Never many, but enough to matter. Set course for the relay station. "And Park?" "Yes, sir." "Send the usual message to all survivors. Tell them about the network." The network was Marcus's idea. He had realized that scattered humans would be helpless alone, but together they might be able to do something. They used old military encryption to send messages between survivor groups. They shared information, resources, and most importantly, they shared what they learned about their enemies. At Relay Station 77 Alpha, Marcus found Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez and his crew of deep space maintenance workers. They had been repairing a communications array when the attack started. The station was so far from any human world that the aliens had ignored it completely. "Commander Torres," Rodriguez said as they met in the station's small conference room. "Glad you made it. We have something you need to see." Rodriguez led Marcus to the station's main hangar. Inside was a damaged alien fighter craft, mostly intact except for one wing that had been torn away. "We found it drifting near Proxima Station," Rodriguez explained. "Looks like it got hit by debris during the attack and the pilot couldn't make it home." Marcus walked around the alien ship studying its design. It was sleek and deadly, with weapons he didn't recognize and armor that seemed to shift color in the light. "Have you been inside?" "That's the best part," Rodriguez grinned. "The computer core is still intact. Everything's there. Star charts, weapon specifications, communication codes. Even some kind of biological database. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Biological database? Information about different species, including us. They knew everything about human biology before they attacked. Blood chemistry, genetic weaknesses, even psychological profiles. That night, Marcus sat alone in his quarters aboard the Defiant, reading through the alien data. The files were horrifying in their detail. The aliens had studied humans like lab rats, learning exactly how to kill them most efficiently. They had tested their bioweapons on captured humans. They had analyzed human military tactics to find the best ways to defeat them. But as Marcus read deeper, he began to smile. It was not a pleasant smile. "Park," he called over the intercom. "Get me a secure connection to Luna Base. I need to talk to Dr. Chen." The connection took several hours to establish. When Sarah's face appeared on the screen, she looked tired but determined. "Marcus," she said, "good to see you're still alive. Sarah, I'm sending you some files. Tell me what you think." Sarah's expression changed as she read through the alien data. Her eyes grew wide, then narrow with anger, then something else, something calculating. "They made a mistake," she said finally. "What do you mean?" "They studied us, but they also studied themselves. Look at this file here. It's a comparison between human and Krillian immune systems. They wanted to make sure their bioweapons wouldn't affect them." Marcus leaned forward. And now we know exactly how their immune systems work. We know their genetic structure, their environmental needs, their physical weaknesses. They gave us everything we need to kill them." Over the following weeks, the human survivor network grew. They found more groups, more ships, more hidden bases. Never many people, but enough. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors. They had survivors from every field they needed, and they all had the same goal. Dr. Elizabeth Warren was a bioweapons specialist who had survived in a research station near Neptune. When she saw the alien data, she immediately began working on new viruses designed specifically for Krillian biology. Captain James Mitchell was a special forces officer who had been training on a secret military base when the attack happened. He started planning infiltration missions against alien worlds. Professor Zhang Wei was a computer expert who began developing cyber weapons to use against alien technology. The network grew stronger every day. They shared resources, knowledge, and plans. Most importantly, they shared their anger. Sarah stood in the Luna Base laboratory looking at a new creation growing in a biotank. It was a virus carefully designed to attack Krillian genetic material. It would be harmless to humans and most other species, but to a Krillian it would be deadly. "How long until it's ready?" asked Martinez. 3 more weeks for this strain," Sarah replied. "But this is just the beginning. We're going to design specific weapons for each species in the collective." "All 12 species?" Sarah's voice was cold as space. "All 12 species. They wanted to study us like animals. They wanted to eliminate us completely. Now they're going to learn what happens when the animals start studying back." Across the galaxy, in hidden bases and damaged ships, humans worked with a purpose they had never had before. They were no longer trying to explore or trade or build colonies. They had a simpler goal. They were learning how to kill aliens. All of them. Every single species that had participated in the attempted genocide of humanity. The aliens thought the human problem was solved. They had no idea that the real problem was just beginning. The morning started like any other on Earth. People woke up, had breakfast, and went to work. Children played in parks while their parents watched the news. On 43 human colony worlds spread across the galaxy, families lived their normal lives. Nobody knew that 12 alien species had been watching them for months, planning their death. The Zephyrian Collective had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. They were old, powerful, and very careful about which species they allowed to grow strong. The Collective had 12 member species, but the Vorthak were the ones who made the hard decisions. The Vorthak were tall, gray beings with black eyes that showed no emotion. They had killed 17 different species over the centuries, always for the same reason. Those species might become dangerous someday. High Commander Zeltak stood in the war room of the Collective's main ship. Around him, screens showed every human world. His thin fingers moved across a control panel as he studied the data. Humans had gone from flying simple aircraft to traveling between stars in less than 200 years. That was too fast, much too fast. "The probability calculations are complete," said Science Director Vex, another Vorthak. If humans continue developing at this rate, they will surpass our technology in 50 years. In 100 years, they could threaten the entire collective. Zelthak nodded slowly. What does the council say? All 12 species have voted. The humans must be eliminated completely. No survivors, no colonies, no chance for them to rebuild. The other species in the collective had their own reasons for wanting humans gone. The Krillians were jealous of human military tactics. The Nexari feared human adaptability. The Threnodi worried about human expansion speed. But the Vorthak saw the real problem. Humans learned too quickly and never gave up. On the screen, Earth spun slowly, blue and beautiful. Cities sparkled on the night side while storms moved across the oceans. 3 billion humans lived there, completely unaware that their death warrant had just been signed. Begin the operation, Zelthak ordered. Across the galaxy, collective fleets moved into position. They had spent months preparing for this moment. Cloaked ships surrounded every human world. Bioweapons were loaded into orbital platforms. Quantum disruptors were aimed at human communication networks and power grids. The attack began at exactly 14:30 Earth Standard Time. On Earth, the first sign of trouble was when every satellite suddenly went silent. Television broadcasts cut off mid-sentence. Internet connections died. Cell phone networks crashed. For 30 minutes, people thought it was just a technical problem. Then the sky started burning. Massive alien ships appeared above every major city on Earth. They were black and angular, covered in weapons that glowed with purple energy. The ships fired down at the planet without warning or explanation. Where the beams hit, everything simply disappeared. Buildings, people, cars, trees, all turned to dust in seconds. Sarah Chen was in her laboratory at Luna Base when the attack started. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. Though she had never seen any living aliens before, the base was on the far side of the moon, hidden from Earth by the lunar surface. She was looking at samples under a microscope when the emergency alarms began screaming. All personnel to emergency stations, the voice on the intercom said. Earth is under attack. This is not a drill. Sarah ran to the observation deck with dozens of other people. Through the reinforced windows, they could see Earth in the distance. The blue planet was covered in bright flashes of light. Explosions bloomed across the continents like deadly flowers. The beautiful world they had all come from was being destroyed before their eyes. My God, whispered Dr. Martinez, standing next to Sarah. My family is down there. Similar scenes played out on 43 colony worlds. On New Geneva, orbital bombardment turned the capital city into a crater in minutes. On Port Royal, bioweapons killed every living thing on the planet's surface. On Kepler Station, quantum disruptors made the artificial gravity fail, crushing everyone inside when they hit the walls. The attacks were perfectly coordinated. The aliens hit every human world at the same time, using different weapons for different targets. They had studied human technology and biology for months, learning exactly how to kill them efficiently. Marcus Torres was commanding a patrol ship near the edge of human space when the emergency signals started coming in. He was a military officer, tough and experienced from fighting pirates in the outer systems. But nothing had prepared him for this. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from every colony, his communications officer reported. Earth has gone silent. Marcus stared at the main screen as reports flooded in. Colony after colony went dark. The few ships that tried to fight back were destroyed instantly. The alien weapons were too advanced, too powerful. How many ships do they have? Marcus asked. Sensors show. Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. They're everywhere. The attack lasted 72 hours. When it was over, the galaxy was quiet. No more human radio signals. No more ships launching from human worlds. No more signs of life from any of the 43 colonies or Earth itself. In the collective command center, High Commander Zelthak watched the final reports come in. Every human world showed the same thing. No life signs, no technology, no responses to any signals. The operation is complete, Science Director Vex reported. All human populations have been eliminated. Their industrial capacity has been destroyed. Their space fleet has been neutralized, and their colonies. Confirmed dead, all of them. We used bioweapons that specifically target human DNA. Nothing with human genetic material could have survived. Zelthak allowed himself a small smile. Another threat to galactic stability has been removed. File the reports. Begin cleanup operations on the more useful worlds. We can colonize some of them in a few years once the bioweapons break down. The collective ships began to leave human space. They had work to do elsewhere in the galaxy, other species to watch, other threats to monitor. The humans were just one more extinct species on a long list. But deep underground on Earth, Sarah Chen was still alive. Luna Base had gone into emergency lockdown when the attack started. The base was designed to survive asteroid impacts and solar flares, so it had survived the orbital bombardment. Air recyclers still worked. Food storage was intact. The small fusion reactor still provided power. And Marcus Torres was alive too. His patrol ship had been too far from any major human world to be targeted in the first wave. When the attacks ended, he had carefully made his way to a hidden asteroid mining station that was still operating. Across the galaxy, in hidden bunkers and forgotten outposts, humans had survived. Not many, but enough. They had lost everything, their homes, their families, their entire civilization. But they were still breathing, and they would remember this day forever. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They thought the threat was over. They were wrong. They had just created something much worse than a rapidly developing species. They had created a species with nothing left to lose, and everything to remember. The hunt was about to begin. 18 months after the failed genocide, General Krathak of the Krillian Empire was having a very bad day. His people were the military backbone of the collective, proud warriors who had conquered dozens of star systems over the centuries. They were not supposed to be afraid, but today, Krathak was terrified. "Report," he ordered as he entered the command center of Krillia Prime, the Krillian homeworld. "Sir, we've lost contact with 3 more patrol fleets," reported his aide, Commander Veltar. "That makes 17 ships missing in the past 2 weeks." Krathak's forearms clenched into fists. The Krillians were large, powerful beings with thick purple skin and natural armor plating. They had evolved as predators on a harsh world, and they looked like it. But right now, Krathak felt like prey. "Any distress signals? Wreckage? Survivors?" "Nothing, sir. The ships just vanish. One moment they're on patrol, the next moment they're gone from all sensors." It had started small. A supply convoy here, a single ship there. The kind of losses that could be explained by accidents or pirates. But the pattern was getting worse. Krillian ships were disappearing all across their territory, and nobody knew why. What about the other species? Are they having similar problems? Veltar hesitated. "Sir, the Collective Council has classified that information. But according to unofficial reports, no. Only we are experiencing these losses." Krathak felt a chill run down his spine. Why would someone target only the Krillians? They were the strongest military force in the Collective. If someone wanted to attack the Alliance, they would hit the weakest members first, not the strongest. Unless they knew something about warfare that the Krillians didn't. 300 light-years away, Marcus Torres watched the tactical display on his ship's bridge. The Defiant had been rebuilt and upgraded with salvaged alien technology over the past year. She was no longer just a human patrol ship. She was a weapon designed specifically to hunt aliens. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Park. "Krillian heavy cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. She's alone and following standard patrol patterns." Marcus smiled grimly. "Perfect. Are the other teams in position?" "Wolverine and Phantom report ready. Mongoose is still moving to intercept position." The human survivor network had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. They called themselves the Hunt. 3 small fleets of heavily modified ships, each designed for different types of missions. Marcus commanded the Predator fleet, which specialized in making alien ships disappear without a trace. "Begin the operation," Marcus ordered. The attack was a work of art. The Mongoose team used a captured, collective jamming device to block the Krillian ship's communications. The Wolverine and Phantom teams hit the engines with precisely targeted shots that looked like system failures rather than weapon damage. When the Krillian ship started drifting helplessly, the Defiant moved in for the kill. But Marcus didn't just want to destroy the ship. He wanted to send a message. "Park, open a channel to the Krillian ship." The face that appeared on the screen was typical Krillian. Purple skin, heavy bone ridges, 4 arms ending in claws. The alien captain looked confused and angry. "What is the meaning of this attack?" the Krillian demanded. "Identify yourselves." Marcus leaned forward so the alien could see his face clearly. "My name is Commander Marcus Torres of the Human Colonial Navy. Remember that name. The Krillian's expression changed from anger to shock, to something that might have been fear. Impossible. The humans are extinct.
We eliminated them ourselves. You tried, Marcus said calmly.
You failed. And now we're going to return the favor. The Krillian ship disappeared in a flash of light, atomized by weapons that the captain would never have time to understand. In the weeks that followed, similar scenes played out across Krillian space. Ships vanished, crews were killed, and always there was the same message. Humanity had survived, and they were coming for revenge. But the hunt wasn't just destroying ships. They were preparing for something much bigger. On Luna Base, Sarah Chen put the finishing touches on her greatest creation. The laboratory had been expanded with equipment salvaged from alien wrecks. The small research station now looked like something from a science fiction movie, full of tanks and computers and devices that glowed with strange energy. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Dr. Martinez, looking nervous as he watched Sarah prepare the final sample. "It'll work," Sarah replied confidently. "I've tested it on tissue samples. The virus is specifically designed to target Krillian genetic material. It's airborne, fast-spreading, and 100% fatal to their species. And it won't affect other life forms? Completely harmless to everyone except Krillians. I've been very careful about that." Sarah held up a small container that seemed to be full of ordinary air. Inside were billions of microscopic organisms, each one designed to kill Krillians in the most efficient way possible. It was a weapon of genocide, created by a woman whose own species had barely survived genocide. "The delivery system is ready," reported Captain Mitchell from across the laboratory. The Special Forces officer had spent months planning how to get the virus to Krillia Prime. "My team can infiltrate their capital city and release it into the atmosphere." Sarah nodded. "How long until it spreads planet-wide?" "Based on their atmospheric patterns and population density. Complete coverage in 72 hours. Complete extinction in 1 week." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Sarah felt a moment of doubt. Was this what humanity should become? A species that created weapons of mass extinction? Then she remembered the orbital bombardment of Earth, the bioweapons that had killed billions of innocent humans. The cold calculation in the alien files that talked about eliminating humanity like they were discussing pest control. "Do it," she said. Captain Mitchell's team was the best of the best. They had spent months studying Krillian culture and biology, learning to move through their society without being detected. They used captured alien technology to disguise their human scent and body heat. They spoke Krillian fluently and knew their customs perfectly. Getting to Krillia Prime was the easy part. The planet's defenses were designed to stop fleets of warships, not a single small craft using collective identification codes. Mitchell's team landed at a commercial spaceport and walked through, customs like ordinary traders. The hard part was staying calm while surrounded by the beings who had helped murder their entire species, remember? Mitchell whispered to his team as they moved through the capital city. "We're here to do a job. Personal feelings come later." The Krillian capital was an impressive sight. Massive towers reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that arced gracefully through the air. Millions of Krillians went about their daily lives, working and shopping and raising their families. They had no idea that death was walking among them. Mitchell's team split up to cover more ground. Each carried a small device that would release Sarah's virus into the air. The plan was to activate them simultaneously at the peak traffic hour, when the most Krillians would be out in the open. At exactly 14:30 local time, the devices activated. The virus was invisible and odorless. It spread through the air conditioning systems of buildings and the ventilation of vehicles. It rode on the wind across the city and drifted into the suburbs. Within hours, every Krillian on the planet had breathed it in. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Krillians went about their business normally. But the virus was working inside them, attacking their genetic structure at the cellular level. On the second day, some Krillians started feeling sick. They thought it was just a common illness and went to their doctors. The doctors had never seen anything like it. On the third day, Krillians started dying. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The symptoms were horrific but quick. Their immune systems simply stopped working, and their bodies shut down completely. By the fourth day, the Krillian government realized what was happening. This wasn't a natural disease. It was a weapon, designed specifically to kill their species. They tried to quarantine infected areas, but it was too late. The virus was everywhere. On the fifth day, the planetary government collapsed as key officials died at their desks. The military tried to maintain order, but their own officers were falling sick. On the sixth day, the communication arrays went silent as the technicians operating them succumbed to the virus. On the seventh day, Krylia Prime was quiet. General Krathak died in his command bunker surrounded by the bodies of his staff. His last act was to send a message to the Collective Council, warning them that humanity had returned and that no alien species was safe. But the message never arrived. The communications equipment had already failed when its operators died. Across the Krylian Empire, the same scene played out on world after world. Mitchell's team had done their job perfectly. They had infected not just the homeworld, but also the major population centers throughout Krylian space. The virus spread through their trade networks and military supply lines like wildfire through a dry forest. In less than a month, the Krylian Empire was extinct. Every single member of their species was dead. Their worlds were silent, their fleets drifting empty in space, their great cities populated only by corpses. The Collective Council received the news with shock and terror. An entire member species had been wiped out without warning. The news of the Krylian extinction spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In council chambers and military headquarters across collective space, alien leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Some species tried to pretend it was a natural disaster. Others called for immediate action against the humans. A few quietly began making plans to run. The Nexari were the first to break. Ambassador Jixtal of the Nexari Republic stood before the Collective Council, her blue-scaled hands trembling as she spoke. The Nexari were traitors and diplomats, not warriors. They had joined the human genocide because the Vorthak had convinced them it was necessary for galactic stability. "Honorable Council," she said, her voice shaking. "The Nexari Republic formally requests permission to withdraw from collective space. We wish to relocate our population beyond the galactic rim." High Commander Zelthak leaned forward in his seat. "That would be seen as an admission of guilt, Ambassador. It would confirm that the collective was responsible for attempting to destroy humanity." "We were responsible," Jixtal shouted, her diplomatic composure finally cracking. "We helped plan their extinction, and now they're coming for us, one species at a time." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some species demanded that the Nexari stay and fight. Others wanted to sue for peace with the humans immediately. The Threnodi suggested that they surrender the species most responsible for the genocide, in exchange for mercy. Everyone looked at the Vorthak when that suggestion was made. Zelthak stood slowly, his tall gray form imposing even among the diverse aliens of the council. "The collective does not abandon its members," he said coldly, "and we do not negotiate with extinct species, but they're not extinct." Jixtal screamed, "That's the whole problem." The argument continued for hours, but it didn't matter. While the Collective Council debated, human strike teams were already moving against their next target. The Nexari had always been cautious, but caution couldn't protect them from an enemy that had spent 2 years studying their weaknesses. Sarah Chen had developed a special gift for the blue-scaled traders. Not a virus this time, but something more poetic. "They're merchants," she had explained to Marcus during their planning session. "Their entire society is built around trade and profit. So we're going to give them the worst possible deal they've ever made." The human attack on Nexari space was different from the Krylian campaign. Instead of bioweapons, they used the aliens' own greed against them. Captain Elena Vasquez, commanding the stealth ship Phantom, had spent months infiltrating Nexari trade networks using captured alien technology. "Package delivered," she reported to Marcus as her ship slipped away from Nexar Prime's orbital trade station. The nanobots are in their main computer system. The nanobots were Sarah's latest creation, microscopic machines that looked like ordinary computer components. They had been disguised as valuable rare metals and sold to Nexari traders, who had eagerly bought them and integrated them into their technology. Now those nanobots were spreading through every computer system in Nexari space. The first sign of trouble came when the Nexari stock market crashed. Trading algorithms went insane, buying and selling randomly until the entire economy collapsed in a single day. Bank accounts emptied themselves and transferred their contents to random addresses. Corporate databases deleted themselves and replaced their contents with human poetry about revenge. "What's happening?" demanded Trade Minister Vixnall as he watched his people's civilization collapse in real time. It's the humans, reported his chief technician. They've infected our entire computer network with some kind of intelligent virus. It's rewriting our software, stealing our data, and destroying our infrastructure. Can we stop it? I don't think so, sir. It's learning faster than we can adapt. Every time we try to block it, it finds a new way in. The nanobots were more than just computer viruses. They were designed to learn and evolve, becoming more sophisticated with each system they infected. Within days, they had taken control of the Nexari power grid, transportation network, and communication system. But the worst was yet to come. Sir, the technician said, his voice filled with terror. The nanobots are accessing our life support systems. They're changing the atmospheric mixture in our cities. The nanobots had learned that Nexari required a specific mixture of gases to breathe, so they began slowly changing that mixture, reducing the oxygen content and increasing the levels of gases that were toxic to Nexari biology. It was a slow, agonizing death sentence for an entire species. But before the Nexari started dying, they received a message. Every screen in Nexari space displayed the same image: a human woman with short black hair and cold eyes. Dr. Sarah, Chen looked directly into the camera as she spoke. People of the Nexari Republic, she said in perfect Nexari language, you participated in the attempted genocide of humanity. You voted to exterminate my species because you feared our economic competition. Now you will learn what real competition looks like. The message continued for exactly 60 seconds before the screens went dark. But the nanobots kept working, slowly poisoning the air that the Nexari breathed. Some Nexari tried to flee in spaceships, but the nanobots had infected those systems too. Ships that tried to leave orbit found their engines shutting down. Some managed to reach other star systems, only to discover that the nanobots had already spread to those worlds through the trade networks. There was nowhere to run. The Nexari extinction took 3 weeks. Unlike the quick death that had claimed the Krillians, this was a slow process that gave the aliens time to understand exactly what was happening to them. They knew they were being killed by human technology. They knew it was revenge for their part in the genocide. And they knew that no one was coming to save them. Ambassador Jixtal died in her office, struggling to breathe the poisoned air while composing a final message to the collective council. Her last words were a warning. The humans are not the species we thought we destroyed. They are something else now. Something terrible. The message was automatically sent to every government in collective space. It arrived just as the news of the Nexari extinction was confirmed. 2 species down. 10 to go. The remaining members of the collective were no longer debating whether humanity had survived. The question now was how to stop them. The Threnodi suggested building massive defense fleets around their homeworlds. The Sethvar wanted to launch preemptive strikes against suspected human bases. The Yilix proposed using their psychic abilities to locate human survivors. But the Vorthak had a different plan. We need to understand how they survived. Science Director Vex told the Emergency Council session, our attack was perfect. We accounted for every human world, every ship, every possible hiding place. Yet somehow they not only survived, but have developed weapons that surpass our own technology. High Commander Zelthak nodded grimly. Then we study them the same way we studied them before. We learn their weaknesses and we finish what we started. Sir, said Admiral Korthax of the Zephyrian Navy, perhaps we should consider negotiation. We could offer them compensation, territory, even some of the species that were most responsible for the genocide. Zelthak's black eyes fixed on the Admiral with cold fury. The Vorthak do not negotiate with inferior species. We do not show weakness. We have eliminated 17 civilizations over the millennia, and we will eliminate this human remnant as well. But privately, Zelthak was beginning to have doubts. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible. They had developed biological and technological weapons that were more advanced than anything in the collective arsenal. They had infiltrated secure alien space and destroyed entire species without anyone detecting them until it was too late. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to understand the psychology of their enemies perfectly. The Krillians had been killed quickly because they valued honor and death. The Nexari had been killed slowly because they feared economic ruin more than anything else. Each attack was tailored to cause maximum psychological damage to its target. These were not the desperate actions of a few survivors. This was a coordinated campaign by an organized military force with resources, intelligence, and a clear strategic plan. Zelthak was beginning to realize that the collective had not attacked a primitive species that got lucky. They had attacked something that was capable of learning, adapting, and becoming more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen, and they had made it very, very angry. The third target was the Kethvar hegemony. The Kethvar were telepaths, capable of reading minds and projecting thoughts across vast distances. They had been among the most enthusiastic supporters of the human genocide, claiming that human thoughts were chaotic and disturbing to their sensitive minds. But telepathy was a double-edged weapon. As they were about to discover, Dr. Elizabeth Warren had spent months developing a special gift for the mind readers. She called it the Nightmare Protocol. Their telepathic abilities make them vulnerable in a way they've never considered, she explained to the other human leaders during their planning session. They're used to filtering out unwanted thoughts, but they've never encountered a psychic attack designed specifically to overwhelm their mental defenses. The attack on the Kethvar didn't use ships or weapons or viruses. 3 years after the failed genocide, High Commander Zelthak stood alone in his command chamber aboard the Vorthak fortress world of Terminus. Around him, the massive space station that had been his people's stronghold for 1,000 years was eerily quiet. No more reports from the field. No more communications from allies. No more emergency council sessions. He was the last one left. The humans had worked their way through the collective species with methodical precision. After the Kethvar, they had eliminated the Threnodi with engineered parasites that ate their calcium-based exoskeletons from the inside. The Yilliks had died when their hive mind was infected with a virus that turned their collective consciousness against itself. The Zephyrians had suffocated when nanobots converted their atmosphere into poison gas. Each extinction was different, perfectly tailored to exploit the specific weaknesses of each species. Each death was a work of art designed to cause maximum suffering and terror. The humans had not just killed their enemies, they had made sure that each species understood exactly why they were dying and who was responsible. 9 species dead. 1 to go. Zelthak activated the main display screen and looked out at the fleet surrounding Terminus. 300 Vorthak warships, the last remnant of an empire that had once controlled a quarter of the galaxy. They were the finest vessels his people had ever built, equipped with weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could withstand the explosion of stars. It wouldn't be enough. Zelthak knew that now. "Sir," came a voice from behind him. Science Director Vex entered the command chamber, looking as calm and emotionless as always. "The perimeter sensors have detected incoming ships. How many?" 12 vessels. Small craft, likely modified human designs incorporating captured alien technology. Zelthak almost laughed. 12 ships against 300. The humans were either incredibly brave or completely insane. Given what he had learned about them over the past 3 years, it was probably both. "Order the fleet to attack positions," he said. "Activate all defensive systems. Deploy the hunter-killer squadrons." "Sir," Vex said quietly, "perhaps we should consider transmission of surrender terms." Zelthak turned to face his subordinate, his black eyes reflecting no emotion. "The Vorthak do not surrender. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia. We have eliminated 17 primitive civilizations. We do not bow to inferior species. With respect, sir, the humans have proven they are not inferior. They are clever, I will grant them that. But they are still just animals with weapons. Animals can be caged or killed." As if summoned by his words, every screen in the command chamber suddenly displayed the same image. A human woman appeared, older than the scientist who had taunted the Nexari, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. She wore the uniform of what had once been the human colonial navy. "I am Admiral Elena Vasquez," she said in perfect Vorthak language. "I command the human forces surrounding your position. You have exactly 1 hour to prepare for your extinction." Zelthak stepped forward, activating his own transmission system. "I am High Commander Zelthak of the Vorthak Empire. Your pathetic force of 12 ships cannot threaten our defenses." Admiral Vasquez smiled, and Zelthak felt something cold settle in his stomach. It was not a pleasant smile. "You're right," she said. 12 ships couldn't possibly destroy your fleet. That's why I didn't bring 12 ships." The display changed to show sensor readings from around Terminus. What Zelthak had thought were 12 human vessels were actually just the visible part of a much larger force. Stealth ships appeared on the sensors like ghosts materializing from the void, hundreds of them, surrounding the Vorthak position in a perfect sphere. "You see," Vasquez continued, "we've had 3 years to prepare for this moment, 3 years to study your technology, learn your tactics, and build weapons specifically designed to kill Vorthak. We know everything about you now. Your psychology, your biology, your culture, your fears." Zelthak felt something he had never experienced before in his long life. Genuine terror. "You tried to exterminate humanity," Vasquez said, her voice becoming harder. "You succeeded in killing billions of innocent people. Children, families, entire worlds of peaceful civilians. You did it without warning, without mercy, and without remorse. You treated us like insects to be stepped on." The human admiral leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to look directly into Zelthak's soul. "Now you get to learn what it feels like to be the insect." The attack began immediately. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in patterns that seemed almost like a dance. But these were not the primitive weapons the Vorthak remembered from their initial study of humanity. These were new designs, built using captured alien technology and improved with human innovation. The first wave of human fighters swept through the Vorthak defensive line like it didn't exist. Their weapons cut through Vorthak shields as if they were made of paper. Ships that had withstood attacks from entire fleets were destroyed in seconds by weapons that seemed to know exactly where to hit. "How is this possible?" Vex demanded as he watched the tactical display. "Their weapons are more advanced than ours." "They learned," Zelthak said grimly. "We gave them 3 years to study our technology and they improved it. The human attack was not just superior technology, it was superior strategy, superior tactics, and superior understanding of their enemy. The humans knew exactly how Vorthak military doctrine worked. Because they had captured and studied it, they knew where every ship would be positioned. Because they understood Vorthak psychology, they knew how to defeat every weapon system, because they had reverse-engineered them. But most importantly, they knew that the Vorthak had never faced an enemy that fought with the cold fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. Within 30 minutes, half the Vorthak fleet was destroyed. The survivors tried to retreat, but they found their escape routes blocked by human ships that had been waiting in exactly the right positions. Every move the Vorthak made had been anticipated and countered. "Sir," Vex reported, "the humans are requesting communication." Admiral Vasquez appeared on the screen again, but now she was standing on the bridge of a human warship. Behind her, Zelthak could see the burning wreckage of Vorthak vessels. "Surrender is not an option," she said without preamble. "You had your chance for mercy 3 years ago and you chose genocide instead. But I want you to understand something before you die." She gestured to someone off-screen, and the display changed to show images of human worlds, not the dead planets that the collective had left behind, but new colonies, rebuilt cities, growing populations. "You didn't kill humanity," Vasquez said. "You just taught us how to kill you. Every world you destroyed has been rebuilt. Every ship you destroyed has been replaced. Every person you murdered has been avenged." The images changed again, showing vast shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, research stations developing new weapons, training facilities where human soldiers learn to fight aliens. "We are not the same species you tried to exterminate," the Admiral continued. "We are something new, something that exists for one purpose, to make sure that what you did to us never happens to anyone else ever again." Zelthak finally understood what the humans had become. They were not just seeking revenge. They had transformed themselves into the galaxy's immune system, designed to eliminate threats to peaceful species. "You created us," Vasquez said, her voice filled with cold satisfaction. "Every weapon we built, every tactic we developed, every ship we launched, all of it exists because you taught us that the universe is full of predators who will destroy entire civilizations for their own convenience." The final phase of the battle was not really a battle at all. It was an execution. Human ships closed in on Terminus from all directions, their weapons methodically destroying the station's defenses section by section. They were not in a hurry. They wanted the Vorthak to have time to understand what was happening to them. Zelthak watched as his empire died around him. 1,000 years of Vorthak civilization, reduced to burning metal and corpses floating in space. The species that had considered themselves the ultimate predators had become the ultimate prey. Sir, Vex said quietly, the humans are boarding the station. Zeltik could hear the sounds of combat in the corridors outside his command chamber. Human soldiers, using captured Vorthak weapons and armor, were methodically clearing the station. They knew exactly where to go, exactly what defenses they would face, exactly how to overcome them. The door to the command chamber exploded inward. Through the smoke came a figure in powered armor that looked like a fusion of human and alien technology. The soldier removed her helmet to reveal a young human face with hard eyes. "Hi, Commander Zeltak," she said in accented Vorthak. "I am Captain Sarah Mitchell. You killed my family on New Geneva." Zeltak drew his sidearm, but the human was faster. The energy bolt hit him in the chest and he fell to his knees. "You wanted to study humanity," Captain Mitchell said as she stood over him. "Did you learn what you wanted to know?" Zeltak tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. He looked up at the human soldier and saw something in her eyes that terrified him more than death itself. He saw justice. As Zeltak died, the last of the Vorthak Empire died with him.